Passengers watched and waited. By late morning, all flights out of Dorval Airport were canceled. Thousands of people were left stranded. And Canadian authorities scrambled to deal with the impact of the terrorist attacks. Todd Vander Hayden is at Dorval Airport live. He joins us now. Todd, it must have been very chaotic there today. What's going on at this hour?
Well, Bill, it is a little calmer right now, but as you said, very chaotic throughout the day. Words like shock and disbelief don't really begin to describe the atmosphere. Of course, Montreal, a major hub for the U.S. Eastern Seaboard, New York and Boston. So there were hundreds of American passengers here that were stranded trying to find their way home. The tarmac at Dorval Airport completely shut down. The only sound, a siren wail, a sure sign that something terrible had happened. And as U.S. passengers tried to figure out what the next step was going to be, they also had to come to grips with a major terrorist attack on U.S. soil. As you'll see in this report, for some it happened in their own backyard.
I worked in the trade center from the day it opened. I was the chief operating officer of JFK Airport before I retired 3.5 years ago. And almost everybody I've ever worked with in my whole life is probably in that building unless they were able to get out before it collapsed.
It's unbearable. It's just unimaginable. I just can't believe that that happened.
It's just scary because you don't know what's going to happen or what to do or where to go, or everything's just kind of in chaos.
As passengers watched the scenes in horror, the blood drained from their faces full of confusion and disbelief.
I'm in shock. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old who I said, Mommy's going to be home today. I was here on business, so I don't know when. I just told her my plane's broken.
For all travelers, there was chaos. But for Americans, there was also a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. So close to home, yet stranded, with nothing to do but watch.
We're all fair game. I mean, I don't think if any country in the world, if somebody decides to do something crazy, you wonder how you could stop it. I mean, think about what we just saw. I mean, it is totally incomprehensible. It's like the world's worst nightmare.
There are 8 of us, and we all need to get back to the Cincinnati airport today.
This is hard to believe. I mean, things like this happen so seldom.
I was at the World Trade Center like 3 weeks ago when I had my friends in who were like visiting me from Toronto. It's just kind of edgy because now I'm trying to find out where my friends are and see, you know, if they're okay, because all of my friends and family are in New York City.
As events unfolded, Dorval Airport was tense. Everyone seemed in a daze. They were unsure of where to go or what to do. Desperate phone calls as every flight was canceled. And glued to the TV screens, people had so many unanswered questions. Who did this? Why? What happens now? And there was also anger.
We cannot tolerate this. I'm not, from my personal thing, I don't think we should be wishy-washy on terrorists. If they can do this, they'll do more. I think we need to take direct action and hit them hard.
It is stuff that horrible dreams are made of. Horrible dreams are made of. Light a candle. That's all we can do. Anybody who's watching, pray for the families and those who perished. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people working those 2 buildings.
And of course, Bill, it's no word yet on the death toll. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people may be implicated as rescue workers try to save lives tonight. Here at Dorval, you can see behind me, pretty quiet. Most of the passengers have now been bussed out. But of course, the situation remains tense here at Dorval. Montreal, no stranger to terrorism, with Ahmed Rassam and his plan to blow up LAX a year and a half ago, use the city as his base of operations. So while things are calmer right now, people here still at the international airport very tense. Back to you.
Thank you, Todd.
Now, almost 24 flights bound for the United States were rerouted to Dorval and Mirabel airports. Quebec City, Gander, and Goose Bay airports were prepared to accept other overseas flights. And hundreds of people who had been headed to the United States will spend at least one night here in Montreal. Caroline Van Vlartigan spoke to passengers who'd made this unexpected stop in Montreal. So, Caroline, how are the passengers dealing with this?
Well, Mitsumi, I think like the rest of the world, when they finally saw what had happened, they were in total shock and disbelief. But they were not really aware of what was going on while they were in the air. A KLM spokesperson that I spoke to said that the cabin crew deliberately kept information to a minimum. They didn't want the people on board to panic. They didn't want them to all start using their cell phones to perhaps check on loved ones. There were some flights that were due to arrive in Newark and also in Houston, Texas, that were rerouted here today. So we met some of those passengers as they came off the flight here and landed at Dorval. And of course, once they saw the images and learned the true magnitude of what had happened, they were all in utter disbelief. For the 350 passengers on KLM Flight 661 en route to Houston, Texas, word of the attacks on the U.S. came at 7 hours into the flight. But even though they had that word, the images that awaited them were beyond what they expected.
I haven't seen any pictures yet. It's gruesome, I'm sure.
Well, scientist David Spence was on his way home from a business trip. We accompanied him as he made his way to the TV monitors for the first time.
Jesus. So it was standing and then it collapsed. And nobody could get out, I guess.
Along with another KLM flight with 150 passengers bound for Newark, New Jersey, Spence and his fellow passengers waited and tried to call home. For Ben McCormack, home is New York City.
I was able to, up until today, see the World Trade Centers from my apartment, and it's going to be very strange to get back. And I understand they just collapsed completely.
Well, you know, when America sneezes, the whole world will catch cold. That is the way we view it. Because it is a world power, and when anything happens to America, it affects the whole world. You can see what is happening now.
When the pilot announced there was an unfortunate incident, I thought he was joking. Until we landed, I still don't believe that could happen to America.
It makes you wonder who is safe nowadays.
You could hear a lot of different accents of people from around the world, all nationalities, feeling terrible about this event in New York City today. People from all over the world expressing their outrage as well. I should say that the passengers that did disembark later told us that they were glad that the crew hadn't filled them in on the details, because they also worried that there would have been a panic on board had they known, because, of course, they were on board a flight in midair, and many of these incidents, of course, all of these incidents involved aircraft with innocent people on board. The Aéroport de Montreal, the authority that governs Dorval and Mirabel, reported a total of 600 flights that were either canceled at Dorval or Mirabel today. 186 arrivals and 400 flights out of these two airports were canceled today. Unexpected were 14 flights that were rerouted to Mirabel and 7 to Dorval Airport. There were also members of our employees for the CLSC that were walking around here today in case anybody needed some sort of help with anxiety or stress, and we overheard some European passengers saying that they were being bused to hotels as far as Mont-Tremblant, so they may be there for a day, 2 days. At this point, it's anyone's guess. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Caroline.